Is it truly possible to achieve inner peace in a world consumed by chaos and constant distraction? This question has plagued philosophers and seekers for millennia, yet perhaps the ancient Stoics held the key all along. But in an age of information overload, social media addiction, and global crises, is such a lofty ideal even attainable? Or are we doomed to be swept away by the tumultuous currents of modern life? Imagine, for a moment, a tranquil oasis amidst a raging storm. The winds howl, the rain lashes, and the world around you seems to be tearing itself apart. Yet within this sanctuary, you remain untouched, unmoved, and unperturbed. This is the promise of Stoic philosophy, not an escape from reality, but a fortress built within the self, impervious to external chaos. It's a seductive vision, one that has captivated minds for over 2,000 years. But can such ancient wisdom truly withstand the onslaught of 21st century pressures? Consider the average person's day, bombarded by notifications, trapped in a cycle of comparison and FOMO, constantly pulled between conflicting demands and desires. The noise is deafening, both literal and metaphorical. In such an environment, the idea of staying silent seems not just challenging, but almost heretical. We're told that to succeed, we must hustle harder, network more, and always be on. Silence is equated with stagnation, with being left behind. Yet what if this ceaseless activity is precisely what's robbing us of our peace, our clarity, and ultimately, our humanity? The Stoics argued that true freedom lies not in controlling external events, but in mastering our internal responses. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This perspective flies in the face of our modern obsession with influencing, manipulating, and dominating our environment. We wage wars against nature, against each other, and against ourselves, all in a futile attempt to bend reality to our will. But what if the path to genuine power and peace lies in the opposite direction? Epictetus, a former slave turned influential Stoic teacher, famously stated, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will." This simple yet profound insight cuts to the heart of human suffering. How much of our mental and emotional energy is wasted on things we cannot change? We agonize over the past, anxiously anticipate the future, and rage against circumstances beyond our control. In doing so, we sacrifice the only thing truly within our grasp, the present moment. But embracing this philosophy is far from easy. It requires a radical shift in perspective, a willingness to relinquish our illusory sense of control over the external world. For many, this prospect is terrifying. We cling to our worries, our plans, and our desires like a drowning man clutches at driftwood. The idea of letting go, of surrendering to the flow of life, seems tantamount to giving up. Yet paradoxically, it is precisely this surrender that offers the greatest freedom. The Stoic path demands courage, not the brash bravado of the battlefield, but the quiet fortitude to face one's own mind. It asks us to confront our deepest fears, our most cherished illusions, and our ingrained habits of thought. This internal struggle is often far more daunting than any external challenge. We must learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them, to cultivate a stillness that allows us to respond rather than react. This practice of inner silence is not about suppressing emotions or denying reality. Rather, it's about creating a space between stimulus and response, a moment of clarity in which we can choose our actions wisely. In a world that constantly demands our attention and reaction, this ability to pause becomes a superpower. It allows us to break free from the tyranny of impulse, to act in alignment with our deepest values rather than being pulled along by the current of the moment. But what of the criticism that Stoicism leads to passivity, to a withdrawal from the world and its problems? This is a profound misunderstanding of philosophy. The Stoics were not hermits or ascetics. Many, like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, held positions of great power and responsibility. Their goal was not to escape the world, but to engage with it more effectively, from a place of inner strength and clarity. By cultivating inner peace, we become better equipped to face external challenges and to make a positive impact on those around us. Consider the metaphor of a tree in a storm. The rigid, unyielding tree that refuses to bend will eventually break under the force of the wind. But the tree that is flexible, that can sway and adapt without losing its roots, will weather the fiercest gales. This is the resilience that Stoic practice aims to cultivate. By letting go of our attachment to specific outcomes, by accepting what we cannot change while focusing our energy on what we can influence, we develop an unshakable core of tranquility. This inner stillness becomes a refuge, a source of strength in times of crisis. When the world around us is in chaos, when we face loss, disappointment, or uncertainty, our Stoic practice becomes an anchor. It doesn't make us immune to pain or grief, but it provides a perspective that allows us to navigate these experiences with grace and dignity. We learn to find meaning in adversity, to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than as cruel twists of fate. But perhaps the most radical aspect of Stoic philosophy is its insistence on personal responsibility. In a culture that often encourages victimhood and blame, the Stoics remind us that our responses to events are always our own choice. This can be a hard pill to swallow. It's far easier to point fingers, to rage against circumstances or other people, than to look inward and take ownership of our reactions. Yet it is precisely this ownership that offers the path to true empowerment. By focusing on what is within our control, our thoughts, our judgments, our actions, we reclaim our agency. We stop being passive recipients of life's events and become active participants in shaping our experience. This shift in perspective is liberating, but it also comes with a weighty responsibility. We can no longer hide behind excuses or circumstances. Every moment becomes a choice, an opportunity to align our actions with our values. This philosophy challenges us to live with intention, to be deliberate in our thoughts and actions. In a world of constant distraction and instant gratification, the practice of staying silent and cultivating inner peace becomes a radical act of rebellion. It's a rejection of the noise, the superficiality, and the frantic pace of modern life. Instead, it offers a return to something deeper, more authentic, and ultimately more fulfilling. The journey towards this inner stillness is not a linear path. It's a daily practice, a constant recommitment to our values and principles. There will be setbacks, moments of weakness where we fall back into old patterns of reactivity and attachment. The key is to approach these moments with compassion and curiosity rather than judgment. Each failure becomes an opportunity to learn, to refine our understanding and strengthen our resolve. This practice of self-reflection and continuous improvement is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. Seneca advised, each night before going to sleep, we must ask ourselves, what weakness did I overcome today? What virtue did I acquire? This nightly review serves not as self-flagellation, but as a tool for growth. It's a way of holding ourselves accountable, of ensuring that each day moves us closer to our ideal selves. But what does this ideal self look like in the context of Stoic philosophy? It's not about achieving perfection or becoming emotionless automatons. Rather, it's about developing a character of strength, wisdom, and virtue. The Stoics believed that living in accordance with virtue, courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom was the key to eudaimonia, or human flourishing. This is not a passive state of contentment, but an active engagement with life, guided by reason and a commitment to the greater good. In pursuing this ideal, we're called to examine our beliefs, our habits, and our priorities. What truly matters in life? What are we willing to sacrifice for our principles? These are not easy questions, and wrestling with them can be uncomfortable. But it is through this discomfort that we grow, that we shed the unnecessary and align ourselves more closely with what is essential. The Stoic emphasis on virtue and character development stands in stark contrast to our culture's obsession with external markers of success. In a world that prioritizes wealth, status, and appearance, choosing to focus on internal growth can feel like swimming against the tide. It requires a willingness to question societal norms, to resist the pull of materialism and instant gratification. But for those who embark on this path, the rewards are profound. As we cultivate inner peace and align our actions with our values, we begin to experience a sense of coherence and purpose that no external achievement can match. We become less reactive to the ups and downs of fortune, less swayed by the opinions of others. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent or detached from the world around us. On the contrary, by freeing ourselves from unnecessary anxieties and desires, we become more fully present and engaged with life. This presence allows us to appreciate the beauty in small moments, to find joy in simple pleasures. The Stoics emphasized gratitude as a key practice, reminding us to focus on what we have rather than what we lack. In doing so, we cultivate a sense of abundance that is independent of external circumstances. Even in the face of hardship or loss, we can find reasons to be grateful, shifting our perspective from scarcity to sufficiency. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of Stoic philosophy is its potential to transform our relationships with others. By cultivating inner peace and self-sufficiency, we become less needy, less demanding in our interactions. We're able to love and care for others without the desperate attachment that often characterizes relationships. This creates space for genuine connection, for relationships based on mutual respect and shared values rather than codependency or manipulation. Moreover, the Stoic emphasis on common humanity encourages us to extend our circle of concern beyond our immediate family and friends. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." This recognition of our interconnectedness calls us to consider the wider implications of our actions, to strive for the common good rather than narrow self-interest. In an age of increasing polarization and tribalism, this perspective is more crucial than ever. The Stoic ideal of the sage, the person who has achieved perfect wisdom and virtue, may seem unattainable. Indeed, even the ancient Stoics acknowledged that such perfection was rare, if not impossible. Yet this ideal serves not as a source of frustration, but as a guiding star, a direction in which to orient our efforts. Each small step towards greater wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control is valuable in itself, regardless of whether we ever reach the pinnacle of sagehood. This perspective offers a refreshing antidote to the perfectionism that plagues so many in our achievement-oriented society. Instead of beating ourselves up for falling short of impossible standards, we can appreciate the process of growth itself. We can find satisfaction in the daily practice of living according to our principles, knowing that each choice, each moment of mindfulness, contributes to our overall development. But what of the criticism that Stoicism promotes a kind of resigned acceptance, a passive acquiescence to injustice or suffering? This is a fundamental misunderstanding of philosophy. The Stoic ideal of acceptance is not about resigning ourselves to fate, but about clearly distinguishing between what we can and cannot control. By accepting what is outside our control, we free up energy to focus on what we can influence. This is not passivity, but a strategic reallocation of our resources. Consider the Stoic response to societal injustice. A Stoic does not simply shrug and accept oppression or cruelty as inevitable. Instead, they would work tirelessly to effect change where possible, while maintaining inner peace and not allowing anger or despair to consume them. This combination of engaged action and emotional equilibrium can be a powerful force for positive change. It allows us to persist in the face of setbacks, to maintain hope and determination even when progress seems slow. The relevance of this approach in our current global context cannot be overstated. We face unprecedented